Once upon a time, there was a man who had 3 sons. They had different hobbies and enjoyed different sports, but they all loved the same beautiful girl in their town. Each of them asked the girl the same question, "Will you marry me?" All of them were clever, handsome, and strong. The girl liked each of the 3 young men very much, so it was hard for her to make the best choice. One day, the father of the 3 brothers said, "Here is some money for you, my sons. Go on a long trip. While you are traveling, you must look for something which is very useful. When you find it, you must buy it and bring it home." The 3 brothers traveled for a long time, and they bought 3 very useful things. The first young man bought a special carpet. On the carpet, he could fly to any place very quickly. The second brother bought a special looking glass. When he looked into it, he could see anyone and anything that he wanted to see. The third brother bought a small lemon. He heard that the juice of the lemon could make a dying man or woman well again. The 3 brothers came together and showed their things to one another. Then one of them said, "We are far from our home and from the girl we love. Let us look into the looking glass and see her." The second brother took out his looking glass, and they all looked into it. They saw that the girl was very sick in bed. Then the first brother asked the other brothers to sit down on his carpet. All of them went to the girl's house very quickly. The third brother cut his lemon and made juice for the girl. The girl drank it and she was well again. The young men were very happy to see her lovely smile. They explained to her how they saved her life. Then the brothers asked the girl, "Which of us will you marry?" "I thank you all, my dear friends," answered the girl. "One of the brothers saw me in his looking glass, and that helped to save my life. His looking glass is a very useful thing, and he will have it forever. Another brother brought all 3 of you here on his carpet, and that helped to save me too. It is also a very useful thing, and he will have it forever. And one of you gave me the lemon juice, and now I am well again. But he has no lemon now. He gave all he had to save me. I choose to be his wife." And the other 2 brothers said, "Yes, the girl is right. The lemon was very small, but it had the magic power not only to make the girl better, but also to move her heart. Lemons are sour, but we can make sweet lemonade out of them."
Have you ever enjoyed cold drinks at a fast food restaurant? Some surprising news was reported all over the world in summer 2018. Starbucks has decided to stop plastic straws in all its stores around the world by 2020. McDonald's has also said that it will start to use paper straws in the UK. And it will change all plastic packages to recyclable ones by 2025. Why have these 2 big companies made these decisions? This movement began with a sea turtle found in Costa Rica in 2015. The turtle was caught because it looked sick. People worried about it. Then a woman found that something was stuck in its nose. When she tried to pull the thing out, the turtle closed its eyes and shook its head. Blood was dripping from its nose. Finally, a plastic straw came out. It was about 10 centimeters long. These pictures spread all over the world through the internet. This made people sad, and a lot of people started a movement to stop using plastic straws. Since then, more and more people have started to think about pollution of the sea. Of course, a plastic straw is just one example of pollution of the sea. There are many other types of plastic garbage that pollute oceans. If you walk along the beach, you can see a lot of plastic bottles, bags, and ropes too. When they get into the sea, they are carried long distances. They never disappear naturally by themselves. These things kill many types of sea life. For example, sea lions are caught by plastic ropes when they are swimming. They can't untie the ropes. Sea turtles eat plastic bags because they look like their favorite food, jellyfish. They can't get the bags out of their bodies. As a result, they die. Plastic garbage is very dangerous to sea life. Also, plastic garbage can be dangerous to humans. It breaks into pieces in the sea after several years. Some of them get shorter than 5 millimeters. They are called microplastics. They easily mix with dangerous chemicals. Small fish eat them, and bigger fish eat the small fish, and so on. In this way, we might eat unhealthy seafood dishes without knowing it. Microplastics have a bad effect on human health, too. Some scientists report that there will be a larger amount of plastic garbage than fish in the sea by 2050. Surprisingly, half of plastic products are thrown away after just one use. Stopping plastic straws is just the beginning of saving the sea environment. Each of us has to change our attitude to plastic products. We should choose eco-friendly products. Let's start to make better choices for our Earth and for our future. Clocks as we know them were probably developed by very religious people in Europe in the 13th century. They needed to know the exact time so they could meet together in church. By the 1700s, people had clocks and watches that were accurate to the minute. Some clocks were very beautiful. They had complicated moving parts. Some clocks had figures of people or animals that moved every hour or quarter hour. Other clocks played music. The movement of the parts is very interesting to see if you open one of these old clocks. Today's clocks and watches have quartz crystals inside of them. They are very accurate. Watches today can be traditional or digital. Digital watches don't have hands, but numbers on their displays. Some watches are very complicated. They keep the time for at least 2 time zones. They have timers, alarms, radios, and even very small televisions. Some watches will count your heartbeat while you're jogging, then tell you how far you ran when you finish. People in different places think about time differently. In some cultures, time is very important. People make plans and follow them closely. They meet someone at a certain time and place. In fact, people may think it is rude to come late. In other cultures, people are more relaxed about time. They don't think it rude to come late. These are 2 different ways of thinking about time.
Do you think that it is bad luck to walk under a ladder or break a mirror? Do you think that black cats and the number 13 are unlucky? Some people don't. Every Friday the 13th, they walk under ladders, break mirrors, and open umbrellas indoors. They want to prove that they aren't at all superstitious. They may be the only people in the world who aren't. There are more than 1 million superstitions, and most people believe in at least 1 or 2 of them. Many people are superstitious about numbers. They think that there are lucky numbers and unlucky numbers. The number 13 is often thought to be unlucky. In some parts of the world, buildings have no 13th floor and streets have no houses with the number 13. In Japan, the number 4 is thought to be unlucky because in Japanese, the word 4 is pronounced the same as the word death. Japanese never give gifts of 4 knives, 4 napkins, or 4 of anything. What are lucky numbers? 7 is a lucky number in many places, and the number 8 is considered lucky in Japan and China. In China, businesses often open on August 8th, and many couples get married at 8 minutes past 8 o'clock on August 8th. There are many other kinds of superstitions, as well as superstitions about numbers. There are superstitions about eating, sleeping, sneezing, and itching. There are superstitions about animals, holidays, and horseshoes. There are even superstitions about superstitions. Those superstitions tell people make bad luck good. For example, in many parts of the world, spilling salt is bad luck. Throwing salt, however, is good luck. So, people who spill salt throw a little of the spilled salt over their left shoulder. Throwing the spilled salt reverses the bad luck. In Japan, to reverse bad luck, people turn around 3 times, turn their pockets inside out, or put their hats on backwards. In the United States, baseball players sometimes wear their caps backwards when their team is losing. It looks silly, but the baseball players don't mind if it helps them win the game. Because there are so many superstitions, it is not surprising that some of them are contradictory. In Germany, it is good luck when the left eye twitches, and bad luck when the right eye twitches. In Malaysia, it is exactly the opposite. A twitching left eye means bad luck. Putting on clothes inside out by accident brings good luck in Pakistan, but bad luck in Costa Rica. In Chile, unmarried people won't take the last piece of food on the plate because it means they will never marry. In Thailand, unmarried people take the last piece because it means they will marry someone good-looking. Some superstitions have been with us for so long that they have become customs. So people who like the customs do not feel that they are superstitions. In many parts of the world, it is polite to say, "God bless you," when someone sneezes. People once thought that the soul could get away from the body during a sneeze. They said, "God bless you," to protect people from losing their souls. Today, we no longer believe that people who sneeze are in danger of losing their souls, but we say, "God bless you," anyway. We say it not because we are superstitious, but because we are polite. Even people who say they aren't superstitious would probably not do what some other people do, intentionally walk under ladders and break mirrors. Almost everyone is at least a little superstitious. One woman says that when she got married, her aunt gave her white bath towels. "Never buy purple towels," her aunt said. "If you use purple towels, your marriage will end." Does the woman believe that superstition? "No, of course not," she says. "It's silly." Does she use purple towels? "Well, no," she answers. "Why take chances?" No one knows for sure just how old kites are. But we know that they were used a long time ago. Greek stories tell of kites 4 centuries before Christ. In Korean legend, they were used in the war. It is said that a general put a light on a kite and it looked like a new star to his army. This star was a sign of good luck from the heavens. 25 centuries ago, kites were well known in China. Probably these first kites were made of wood, or they were covered with silk because silk was in use at that time. About 5 centuries later, the Chinese learned how to make paper from vegetables. This was used as a cover for early kites, too. Early kites were made for many purposes. In China, they were used to carry ropes across rivers. Then the ropes were tied down and bridges were hung from them. Legend tells of one general who flew musical kites over the enemy. The enemy ran away because they believed the sounds were the warning of angels. Legend tells of kites which carried men, too. These were used to carry men behind the enemy or to spy on the enemy. Later, people flew kites for fun in China. In the 1st and 2nd centuries, kites of different shapes were made. Kites were made to look like men, birds, and animals. Some were very beautiful. When we hear the word kite, we remember great names and events. For example, Benjamin Franklin used a kite to prove that lightning is electricity. With such a great history, we will continue to enjoy flying kites.
Bees and other insects use scents to follow fresh flowers, but those scents become weak or confusing because of air pollutants. Scientists worry that because of this, it might be harder for some insects to find a meal. And indeed, a new study shows that in some cases it can make the insect's effort 4 times bigger. Many insects help carry pollen. They do this by bringing it from one plant's male parts to the female parts of another plant. but for many reasons, the number of the insects which help plants in this way has been decreasing. Scientists think that those carriers are losing good places to live in or may have become sick. One group of scientists has been looking into the possible role of air pollution. In an earlier study, they showed that some air pollutants could weaken or destroy scents of flowers. If the insects can't smell the flowers, they may have to search for lunch longer. Looking for a meal leaves insects in danger of becoming some other animal's lunch. When they are hunting food, they cannot protect their home. These scientists decided to examine how pollution might affect insects' lunches. The group used a computer to model scent changes in response to various pollutants in the air. Their data now show that bees and other insects could take much longer to find and follow scents to a meal. Flowering plants emit gases that make the smell of the air pleasant. The sweet molecules spread in the air. Bees and other insects use their antennae to follow the density of the gases and look for where the scent is strong. A strong scent means that they are getting close to a flower. The group focused on 5 scent molecules. A lot of flowers emit one of these 5 molecules into the air. Normally this gas can travel 800 meters from its flower. But in polluted air, this same molecule could travel only half as far. Because of air pollution, insects have to spend longer in search of a meal. Insects searching for this gas can smell the sweet scent in 15 minutes if the air is clean. But the same insects could take an hour when air is polluted with ozone. Ozone is one of the main pollutants in city smog. This smog often happens in big U.S. cities on a hot summer day. Also, air pollution might do more than just weaken scents. Air pollutants may change the flower's scents and create new ones. Bees and other insects might not be able to follow those scents. That is certainly the thing scientists are worried about. So they say that their next study will be to look at how insects deal with any new floral scent. It is possible that some insects will evolve ways to detect and use these new molecules to find food. One of my most interesting experiences was swimming in the Great Salt Lake. The lake covers an area larger than the state of Rhode Island. The surprising fact is that although the lake is far from any ocean, and although it gets its water from rivers which have so little salt as to taste sweet, the lake is about 6 times as salty as the ocean. For a while I floated around, but soon I wanted to stand. Then I was surprised. I couldn't stand on the bottom. The brine was very heavy and holding me up. After swimming for a few minutes, I made my next mistake. I opened my eyes underwater. I expected that I would feel a little pain when the water got into my eyes, but I was not prepared to have that kind of terrible pain. It was so painful that I couldn't keep my eyes open. Of course, that was the last time I tried to swim in the Great Salt Lake. After that experience, I understand why there are no fish in the Great Salt Lake. Fish can't close their eyes.
Many people believe that music and feelings are linked. However, is it actually true? If many people listen to the same song, they usually agree if it is happy, sad, relaxing, or exciting. But that doesn't mean their feelings are changed by the music they listen to. Our question is this: can listening to music change our mood? Psychologists have done research on this topic. In their experiment, they connected machines to people. These machines checked those people's body temperatures and the muscle activity in their faces. They then listened to various kinds of music while the psychologists watched their responses. The results were interesting. Happy and relaxing music tended to make the people in the experiment happy and relaxed. In this case, the music they were listening to had a strong effect on their feelings at that moment. On the other hand, just listening to angry music did not make them mad. They knew it was an angry song, but instead of getting angry, Most of them just couldn't feel relaxed while listening to it. The tempo, or speed of a song, affects people's feelings the most. If it is fast, it is not likely to be a romantic or sad song. But fast music may be happy or angry. Happy music makes people happy and relaxed with its warm harmonies, and angry music makes people uneasy with its discords. Different combinations of musical characteristics leave different impressions on listeners. Most of the happy, angry, or fearful music you hear is fast, mainly with high-pitched notes. Romantic or sad songs are usually slow, with low-pitched notes. If you are a musician, keeping all of this in mind is important. You can make a happy song softer or more romantic by slowing it down and filling it with low-pitched instruments, such as cellos and basses. Or you can make a sad piece of music fearful with high-pitched instruments, violins, for example, and by increasing the speed. Filmmakers use this knowledge often in their work to make music that suits the scenes in their movies. Music can affect its listeners in unbelievable ways. Have you heard of Mozart? There is something called the Mozart effect. It is the idea that if children, or even babies, listen to Mozart's music, they will get smarter. In the past, it was popular for parents to listen to it with their children to give them better grades in school and help them get into better universities in the future. In 1993, psychologists researched this topic. They wanted to find out if listening to classical music, especially Mozart's, made people smarter. There were 3 groups of students, and they all took the same test at the same time. But before the test, each group spent 10 minutes doing different things. The first group just sat around in silence. The second listened to a tape with advice about how to relax. And the third listened to Mozart's music. The first and second groups had about the same test scores. But surprisingly, the third group who listened to Mozart got much better scores than them. Their average was a whole 10% higher than the other groups. Now, here is an important question. Did Mozart's music make them smarter? The answer is no. Listening to Mozart's music did not immediately make them better at getting high scores on tests. The piece of Mozart's music played before their test was in a major key and was fast in tempo. It simply relaxed them and made them happy. And since they felt happy and relaxed, they were able to do better on the test. From this research, the psychologists have learned that fast major key music puts people in good moods, and that increases their performance. So, the next time you study, why don't you put on a pair of headphones and listen to fast and happy music? It won't make you smarter, but you will probably be able to focus better on studying. Editors of newspapers and magazines often go to extremes to provide their readers with unimportant facts and statistics. Last year, a journalist had been instructed by a well-known magazine to write an article on the president's palace in a new African republic. When the article arrived, the editor read only the first sentence and he refused to publish it. The article began, "Hundreds of steps lead to the high wall which surrounds the president's palace." The editor at once sent the journalist a telegram. The telegram instructed the journalist to find out the exact number of steps and the height of the wall. The journalist immediately tried to obtain these important facts, but it took him a long time to send them. Meanwhile, the editor was getting impatient, for the magazine would soon go to press. He sent the journalist 2 urgent telegrams, but he received no reply. He sent another telegram. The editor informed the journalist that if he did not reply, soon he would be fired. When the journalist again failed to reply, the editor reluctantly published the article as the journalist had originally written it. A week later, the editor received a telegram from the journalist. The poor man had been arrested. He had been sent to prison. However, he had at last been allowed to send a telegram. In the telegram, he informed the editor that he had been arrested while he was counting the 1,084 steps leading to the wall which surrounded the president's palace.
Birds do it, cats do it, and Spanish people most especially do it, every day, in broad daylight. They nap. In Spain, grown adults, executives, teachers, government workers go to sleep in the middle of the workday. This is called the siesta. From 1 or 2 to 4:30 or so every afternoon, Spain stops the world to go home, have a leisurely meal, and take a nap. Political and economic experts have informed the Spanish that this is not the way things should be done in a unified Europe. At a time when productivity has almost become a world religion, the siesta tradition still continues. In Spain, working is less important than enjoying life, instead of the other way around. No task is so essential that it cannot wait a couple of hours while you attend to more important matters, like eating, relaxing, or catching up on sleep. If you go out in the early afternoon, you will see offices empty and streets clear. Confused foreigners quickly learn that they have entered a new world with its own rhythm of life. At first, I kept looking for things to do in the afternoon, and I just couldn't believe that nothing was open, recalls Pierre Roberts, an Oakland writer who lived in Spain for several years. I walked the streets of Madrid looking for somewhere to go. It was extremely hot outside. You could see the heat waves, and it was like a ghost town. Unlike the average lunch break, the siesta is a true break in the action because there is no choice except to come to a full and complete stop. You cannot buy food. The shops are closed. You cannot make business calls. Nobody is at the office. Most people go home for lunch or get together with family or friends and take a nap afterwards. Taking a long break in the middle of the day is not only healthier than the conventional lunch, but also apparently more natural. Sleep researchers have found that the rhythm of life may be tuned more closely to our biological clocks. Studies suggest that humans require days broken by 2 periods of sleep instead of one long block of sleep. Feeling sleepy after lunch comes not from the food, but from the time of day. All animals, including humans, have a biological rhythm, explains Claudio Stampi, director of the Chronobiology Research Institute in Newton, Massachusetts. One is a 24-hour rhythm. We get tired by the end of the day and go to sleep, and there is a secondary peak of sleepiness and a decrease in concentration in the early afternoon. Some people have difficulty remaining awake, doing any sort of task between 1 and 4 in the afternoon. For others it is less difficult, but it is there. So there is a biological reason for siestas. The Spanish need their sleep. They've got a long night ahead of them, because another key component of the siesta lifestyle is its nighttime activity. After the afternoon work shift from 4:30 to 8 p.m. or so, they may join friends for a drink. Dinner starts at 9 or 10 p.m., and from there they have fun in town until 1 or 2 in the morning. It's a bad night in Madrid if you get home before 3 in the morning, laughs Roberts. The siesta's origins lie in climate and architecture. Like people who live in other very hot places around the globe, the Spanish turn to shade and stillness to avoid being burned up in the middle of the day. At night, packed houses pour people out into the streets to cool down. While climate is still a factor, the siesta lifestyle today is driven primarily by Spanish social values, which demand an equal, if not greater, emphasis on life outside the office. Work is only one part of our life, says Florentino Sotomayor of the Spanish Tourist Board. We take a break and have the opportunity of having coffee with friends and thinking and talking about different issues, not only work. Most people enjoy entertaining dinner guests as well as eating out. Both of these pastimes have been combined in the popular custom known as progressive dining. Progressive dinners are usually planned by a small group of friends. Everyone gathers at the first friend's house for the first course of the dinner. Once that is finished, everyone then moves to the second friend's house for the next course of the meal. This movement onward towards another house, or progression, continues until the entire meal is finished. Often such dinners are based on food themes such as Italian or Hawaiian. Some people even get dressed up according to the theme of the food that is being prepared. One tip to make sure that a progressive dinner party is successful is to not move to too many different locations. It can be tiring if everyone has to go to more than 3 locations for just one dinner. 3 stops also make for an easy division of the overall meal. The first home can provide the starters, the second can serve the main course, and at the final stop, everyone can enjoy dessert and coffee. It also helps if the homes are not so far apart. Perhaps the key ingredient to a successful progressive dinner is fun. Progressive dinners are a good way for friends to share an evening and their homes with each other.
There are several places in the world that are famous for people who live a very long time. These places are usually in areas where there are a lot of mountains, far away from modern cities. Doctors, scientists, and public health experts often travel to these regions to solve the mystery of a long, healthy life. The experts hope to bring to the modern world the secrets of longevity. Hunza is high in the Himalayan mountains of Asia. There, many people over 100 years of age are still in good physical health. Men of 90 are new fathers, and women of 50 still have babies. What are the reasons for this good health? Scientists believe that the people of Hunza have these 3 benefits: physical work, usually in the fields or with animals, a healthful environment with clean air and water, and a simple diet high in vitamins and nutrition but low in fat, cholesterol, sugar, and chemicals. People in the Caucasus Mountains in Russia are also famous for their longevity. In this area, there are amazing examples of very long-lived people. Birth records are not usually kept, but a woman whose name was Tsurba probably lived until age 160. A man called Shirali probably lived until 168. His wife was 120 years old. In general, the people not only live a long time, but they also live well. They are almost never sick, and when they die, they have not only their own teeth, but also a full head of hair and good eyesight. Vilcabamba, Ecuador, is another area famous for the longevity of the people who live there. This region, like Hunza and the Caucasus, is also in high mountains, far away from cities. In Vilcabamba, too, there is very little serious disease. One reason for the good health of the people might be the clean, beautiful environment. The temperature is about 20 degrees Celsius all year long. The wind always comes from the same direction, and the region is rich in flowers, fruits, vegetables, and wildlife. In some ways, the diets of the people living in the 3 regions are quite different. Hunzakuts eat mainly uncooked vegetables, fruit, especially apricots, and chapatis, a kind of pancake. They eat meat only a few times a year. The Caucasian diet is mainly milk, cheese, vegetables, fruit, and meat. Most people there drink the local red wine daily. In Vilcabamba, people eat a small amount of meat each week, but the diet consists largely of grain, corn, beans, potatoes, and fruit. Experts found one surprising fact in the mountains of Ecuador. Most people there, even the very old, drink a lot of coffee and large amounts of alcohol and smoke heavily every day. However, the diets are similar in 2 general ways. The fruits and vegetables that the inhabitants of the 3 areas eat are all natural, that is, they contain no chemicals, and the people do not eat as much as people do in other parts of the world. An ordinary North American takes in an average of 3,300 calories every day. An ordinary person of these mountainous areas between 1,700 and 2,000 calories. Inhabitants in the three regions have more in common than calories, natural food, their mountains, and their distance from modern cities. Because these people live in the countryside and are mostly farmers, their lives are physically hard. Therefore, they do not need to go to health clubs because they get a lot of exercise in their daily work. In addition, although their lives are hard, the people do not seem to have the worries of city people. Their lives are quiet. Because of that, some experts believe that physical exercise and freedom from worry might be the two most important secrets of longevity. A bird's egg is a marvelous object. People have called it the most perfect thing in the universe. You will probably agree if you learn more about a bird's egg. Take a closer look at the next egg you open in the kitchen. All of its parts have very important jobs. From a hen's point of view, the egg that gets into the frying pan is a failure. Its real job in nature is to give life to another bird. This can happen only if the egg is fertilized by the male bird. The new life begins in the rich yellow globe called the yolk. The yolk provides food for the new life as it grows inside the shell. All around the yolk is the egg white. This part acts as a gentle shock absorber that protects the yolk and the developing chick. The white is primarily water, but it also holds some of the foods and minerals needed to build a bird. Around the yolk and egg white is a thin, flexible skin. Another skin is tightly attached to the inside of the shell. You may notice that there is a pocket of air inside the egg, usually at its large end. When the mother bird lays her egg, there is no airspace inside it. Instead, it is filled completely by the yolk and white. But the egg cools, and as it cools, it shrinks. The shell, however, shrinks less than the inside of the egg and leaves an empty space for air between the two skins. The young chick needs to live on this air before it breaks out of its shell. It also gets some oxygen from outside the shell because the shell and the skins are not completely airtight. The eggshell is an excellent package for the treasure it holds. Its curved design gives it strength. It needs to be strong enough not to break beneath the weight of the parent birds as they sit on it, but weak enough to let the young bird break out when the time comes for hatching. Why do birds lay eggs? Why do they not give birth to their young the way most animals do? As one scientist explained it, a bird, if it becomes pregnant, will be too heavy to fly. By producing her young outside her body, the mother bird is still light enough to fly when it needs to escape enemies and to find food.
Ever wondered why boys and girls choose particular toys, colors, and stories? Why is it the girls want to dress in pink and to be princesses, or boys want to be warriors and space adventurers? Stories told to children make a difference. Scholars have found that stories have a strong influence on children's understanding of cultural and gender roles. Stories do not just develop children's literacy. They convey values, beliefs, attitudes, and social norms, which in turn shape children's perceptions of reality. When and where then do children develop perspectives about their world, and how do stories shape it? Studies have shown that children develop their perspectives on aspects of identity, such as gender and race, before the age of 5. A key work by novelist John Berger suggests that very young children begin to recognize patterns and visually read their worlds before they learn to speak, write, or read printed language. The stories that they read or see can have a strong influence on how they think and behave. For example, research conducted by scholar Vivian Vasquez shows that young children play out or draw narratives in which they become part of the story. In her research, Vasquez describes how 4-year-old Hannah mixes reality with fiction in her drawings of Rudolph the reindeer. Hannah adds a person in the middle with a red X above him alongside the reindeer. Vasquez suggests that Hannah's picture conveyed her desire not to have boys tease Rudolph, and more importantly, her. Children internalize the cultural and gender roles of characters in the stories. In a study that it conducted over a 6-week period, third-grade children read and discussed the role of male and female characters through a number of different stories. Children then reenacted gender roles. For example, girls as passive, evil stepsisters. Later, children rewrote characters and their roles into those that mirrored present-day roles that men and women take on. The roles for girls, for example, were rewritten to show they worked and played outside the home. Subsequently, we asked the girls to draw what they thought boys were interested in, and boys to draw what they thought girls were interested in. We were surprised that nearly all children drew symbols, stories, and settings that represented traditional perceptions of gendered roles. That is, boys drew girls as princesses in castles, with a male about to save them from dragons. Girls drew boys in outdoor spaces and as adventurers and athletes. Scholars have also shown how stories can be used to change children's perspectives about their views on people in different parts of the world. Stories can influence how children choose to act in the world. Kathy Short studied children's engagement with literature around human rights. In her work with 200 children, she found that stories moved young children to consider how they could bring change in their own local community and school. These children were influenced by stories of child activists such as Iqbal Masih, a child activist who campaigned for laws against child labor, but lost his life at the age of 12 for his activism. Children read these stories along with learning about human rights violations and lack of food for many around the world. In this school, children were motivated to create a community garden to support a local food bank.